Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadakacharya Asutara Satasvisi Mad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pachani Nirvi Sesa Sanyavati Paskachate Sita. Hare Krishna. Welcome back everyone this evening and those who have just arrived. Welcome to the Vaishnava Sanga Festival. Today we're continuing, of course my topic is says Prabhupada Katha. I had put a few things down. I was thinking of our ending yesterday. There's also a few things I wanted to go on about. But getting these garlands, I wanted to say, Prabhupada, there were certain things he did regularly. Yes. And one of them was, of course, when he presented himself outside, he always made sure he had his fresh tilak on, nice fresh clothes, and of course the garland. Prabhupada was always receiving garlands, it wasn't difficult. But then when we were traveling, whenever we were on the airplane, of course he would receive so many garlands when he left the temple, so sometimes you see Prabhupada, you would actually feel bad because it seemed like he had so many garlands, he could barely move. Anyway, you would put them up above in the plane, and when we arrived, whatever city we were arriving at, I'd get the garlands and he would pick whatever one he wanted. Usually roses or gardenias if they were around. Sometimes it was roses and gardenias, which was, you smell a gardenia, I'm sure some of my godbrothers, godsisters, you smell a gardenia, you think of Prabhupada. Because that's all, that was our only experience with these things. Me, my favorite, I brought Govardhan this evening for everyone. He likes everyone to see him, so he's come to attend. Anyway, yeah, so Prabhupada would make sure that we looked well. He would take those garlands and he would take the one he wanted, and then he would say, distribute. So then he wanted all of us, as he said, one time in Juhu, I walked into his room. I was given a set of brahmachari cloth at the time. I was a brahmachari, 73. And that color, but it was polished silk, I guess, finished. Is that what you call it? Very shiny, it was beautiful. And I don't know whether he gave it to me. Well, I was Prabhupada's servant. No one ever gave me anything while I was with Prabhupada for 2 years, but he gave me this beautiful silk kurta, dhoti and kurta. So I didn't wear it for a long time because it looked so, bright and shiny and non-renunciate like, it looked. And so finally it was in Juhu. This was in the old days, so he was in his flat on the second floor. And I walked in and I offered a obeisance. As soon as I sat up, his eyes went, wow, he looked at me. He said, you look like you just came from Vaikuntha. I was dhoti, kurta, shaved head, but it was beautiful, it was silk, so it was very opulent looking. So you look like you just came from Vaikuntha, he said. So this, Prabhupada liked this, whatever you might hear anywhere. Prabhupada loved to see his devotees dressed very nicely. Right? In one letter, one one devotee lady. She was very renounced. Many of the ladies joined them were very renounced. They came from hippie types and things. They were never much into flashy. And she wrote Prabhupada about it because she was having battles with others. Some ladies like to dress up. So she wrote Prabhupada about it, where devotees, renunciates. Prabhupada wrote back and said, you should dress very nicely. He said, Krishna doesn't like ugly gopis. So Krishna doesn't like, and everything we do, who are we doing it for? Anyone? Krishna. Everything, you're trying to please Krishna. No one else. He's the important person. That and your spiritual master. But I'm already explaining to you what I witnessed that he found very attractive. So, yes, he would dress us up like that. And of course himself, he made sure. I said the last thing he would do when the fasten your seatbelt went on, he would get up. Because it meant we're going to land soon, which meant I had to put on fresh tilak. This was Prabhupada's way. Just seeing a Vaishnava, one advances. Just by gazing. Imagine gazing on a pure devotee. People would look at Prabhupada. In general, they always just liked him. Because he was very likable, he was lovable. And I heard the one thing of Chandramali Swami, it wasn't Chandramali Swami, who asked me about, yes it was Chandramali Swami, about money. He didn't ask me about that. And let's see, who else is in here? He was asking me about sannyas, Prabhupada's, what he said about sannyas. Neither of them are here, so we'll save that one. Oh, Maharaj, Hare Krishna. I was just wondering if I kind of completed that. Yesterday you asked about Prabhupada, how he dealt with money. Right? Yes. But, again, I traveled with Prabhupada for a long time. So, when my son was born, I was with Prabhupada in Mayapur. It was after I came back for the second time. My wife was in Los Angeles and had given birth to a baby boy. So we received a telegram, and it said, Srutakirti's wife has baby boy 4:15 a.m. It was in Los Angeles. And 4:15 a.m. at that time was when they had Mangalartik in Mayapur. So it was kind of interesting. So then, of course, Prabhupada, in his very generous way, he smiled, he was very nice, he said, very good. And then he said, we'll call him Mayapur Chandra. This was 1974. That was the first time we heard this word, Mayapur Chandra. And he said, you won't find this word in Shastra. Because it was known, where was Lord Chaitanya? Where was he born? Navadvip Chandra. They called him Nadir Nimai, Nimai Pandit, Navadvip Chandra. He said, but you won't find this name. He said, I made it up. So that was the first time, and yeah. And then he had me get one of the brahmacharis, a local Bengali brahmachari. And he came into the room, and then he looks at me, he said, get my white bag. He knows what the white bag, that was his briefcase. Everything had, little Prabhupada terminology. We had the white bag, the black Bhagavatam, the green Bhagavatam. They were his books he used for translating. But for us, we simplified everything. So there was the green Bhagavatam, which was one volume for each canto. And that Bhagavatam had the Sridhar Swami, Vidyabhushan, three or four commentaries. And you'll hear him when he does his purport, sometimes he'll say, Sridhar Swami says, and this one says. So that was the green Bhagavatam. And he had one other book, was the black Bhagavatam. That had all 12 cantos, just the verses in Sanskrit. So they were the two books he traveled with. And this white bag, which had everything important in there, his passport, BPT, bank account books and dakshin like that. So he asked for the white bag. It meant business. And everything Prabhupada did, you just enjoyed it. I heard, Shama Sundari here, and I say every time he walked in, Prabhupada would make you laugh. So when I heard that, I laughed, because that definitely wasn't true. Many times he would make you laugh. Because what he always was exciting. You never walked into something that was going to be boring. It was always going to be very enlivening. But sometimes I didn't smile, definitely, when I went in there. Sometimes he could, right? Like she got a few Prabhupada lessons. Yeah. So we all get them. But of course, looking back, that's the other thing I heard. Looking back, actually, that's Maya's trick. When we look back, we always think things were nice, I think, materially. We forget the bad stuff. Because otherwise, how can you go on? But with the spiritual master, that isn't the things you remember. And it's the exact opposite. Those bad things that are being chastised by Prabhupada, they're the best things. This is where he's showing his affection. Showing that he cares. Like Prabhupada himself said, when my spiritual master chastised me, he said, I was very happy. What did he chastise him for? Very first meeting, or later meeting. It was not the first meeting, later on. He was talking to a god brother while his guru was speaking. He said, be quiet. Prabhupada was very pleased, he said. Now I'm pleased when I look back on those things, but at the time, not so pleased when you're trying to serve your spiritual masters. So he calls the brahmacharya in and he hands him a bunch of rupees. I don't even know what it was at the time, but he hands him all these rupees and he tells him to go to Navadvip and you buy silver bangles and ankle bracelets for Srutakirti's son. So he gave Prabhupada, or he gave my son his very first gift. Bangles, silver bangles and ankle bracelets, with little bell ankle bracelets for my little boy. So then, several months later, I'm in Los Angeles with Prabhupada still as a servant, and he calls me into his room and he says, get Nanda Kumar. Nanda Kumar was Prabhupada's servant before me. Nanda Kumar left Prabhupada and got married, and I did the same thing. After a year, the same thing. So he said, get Nanda Kumar. So of course, it's always the same. Especially when somebody has Prabhupada's association as Nanda, Prabhupada wants to see you. Immediately, why? Because you're like, is he going to tell me to go somewhere? Is he going to yell at me for doing something he heard I'm doing? You get scared, I said, all right, he just called you. So do we go in together? Two brothers would go in, Prabhupada's servants. Nanda was expert. Prabhupada said Nanda Kumar was expert. He was good at everything. And we offer obeisances. And Prabhupada sits up. Well, we sit up. What's he say? He looks at me. Get the white bag. Now he's got two servants in front of him. Two rascals. So I get the white bag. Sit in Prabhupada. You watch him just unzipper. It has zipper. Just the way he unzippered it looked transcendental. It didn't everything was done with care, with attention, with consciousness, full consciousness. He was never spaced out. Didn't bump into things. His head was straight. You didn't see him walk on a morning walk, looking all over. He walked with focus. One of the very first walks I was on, before I was his servant, was in Los Angeles, New Dwarka. He would walk on the beach. He would walk at the park. What park was that called? Right.
Rancho Park.
Yeah, no, right off Motor, I guess. Anyway, he had those two favorite spots. So he was on the beach this particular morning, and Kirtanananda had brought this one really young boy. He was 16. We were 20. We were old. This was a kid. And we're all walking, and Prabhupada's walking and talking, and we're all walking with him, and this was, first time, everything. So he's kind of walking at the back, and he's seeing, of course, as you're walking on the beach at sunrise, you see sand crabs everywhere, little ones, big ones, zipping, and they're cute. So he's looking at the sand crabs and kind of stopping. And again, Prabhupada, he's always focused, but he sees everything. His peripheral vision was outstanding. So he looks at me and he says, "This boy is not serious." That was it. I didn't see the boy anymore, so I guess he wasn't serious. But as soon as Prabhupada saw that, it was just a young boy, but the opportunity, he was missing his opportunity. Prabhupada said, he's not serious. In Juhu, once Prabhupada came down from his flat every morning for the morning walk. So everyone's there. Prabhupada was like, you could set your watch to Prabhupada. When he arrived somewhere, every morning you knew that walk was just like the sun rose. Prabhupada was right there for that morning walk all the time. So in Juhu he comes down. Of course, everybody who's there is out front waiting, offering obeisances. And there was one devotee, and he stood watching Prabhupada, and he had his hands folded like this. Which also, you can understand, you just want to see Prabhupada. So of course, if you offer obeisances, there's a couple seconds there, you're not seeing him. Anyway, he's like this, and Prabhupada again walks, and he looks at me, he said, that is the beginning of his fall down. You get that, Gora? He didn't offer obeisances. He just stood there like this. So Prabhupada noticed. Because Prabhupada noticed everything. He didn't always say something, but he saw everything. So he said, this is the beginning of his fall down. And then he just continued on with the walk. So yeah, this process is, you have to be very, very serious. I always say, when I was his servant, and I was never told any differently. I'll start once again. This was 75, and Nitai, he was Prabhupada's translator at that time. He was Sanskrit editor. And I would be massaging Prabhupada before lunch. And again, that was prime time for Prabhupada to hear his mail. Mail would be read to him. And also secretary and Sanskrit editor, they could come in and out with questions. Secretary would read the mail, take notes. If the Sanskrit, he had any questions, it was a good time, because you didn't just want to go in Prabhupada's room any time, but if you knew he was engaged, that's the best time for his entourage to go in. So I'm rubbing Prabhupada's back. And again, when this is happening, it means I'm rubbing his back longer, at least in the way I saw it, because Prabhupada's interacting with others. So he's very comfortable. And the more comfortable he was, the harder I massaged, which he enjoyed, But for me, it was let him know I'm still behind you, massaging your back, which takes the most energy out of the entire massage, which is why he liked it so much. I've told it many times. The one time I was rubbing. Now imagine you're doing this every day for however long. So sometimes maybe your concentration level is not. No, I'm rubbing, and he said, you can massage my back as hard as you like. Right? I'm 21-year-old, Italian kid, and he challenged me. He threw down. We say he threw down the gauntlet. He said, massage me as hard as you like. I said, yes, Prabhupada. And I start pushing, pushing. And he's sitting there, and he's literally sitting on the floor. I said, Prabhupada weighed, 5'5", weighed maybe 110 pounds, 20 pounds, and 30 pounds, I don't know. But I couldn't move him. Even though I'm pushing, he's on a straw mat on a tile floor. You could just push anything. And he's telling me as hard as you like. So I tried, and I'm going harder and harder. So I'm waiting to reach that point when he says, that's a good place there. But he never said it. In the meantime, I'm starting to sweat, get tired. and I'm trying to, but then I gave up, so I surrendered it. He was much stronger and heavier than I was, because I couldn't budge him, and he enjoyed it. Prabhupada loved his massage. So Nitai goes in the room, offers his obeisances, get down. We didn't do Dandavati, we offered obeisances, and he sits right up. And he had a question. So then Prabhupada answered, and he was satisfied, and then he leaves the room. So 5 minutes later, he comes in again with another question. So this time he comes in, and he lifts his head up. It was like quick. And he asks a question, and Prabhupada answered the question. So then it happens the third time. You always hear me talk about the 3 times. You never get past the third time with Prabhupada. It's like a chess match. You know, you do something, it happens. You do it again. So now he comes in the third time. He pops his head on the floor, sits up. Prabhupada says, "You offer full obeisances," he said, "not this hatchet." And he made a move like a hatchet chopping down a tree, you know. He said, "Don't do this hatchet obeisance." So then he offered obeisances. So I saw that, he used that term hatchet. I saw that as very, just cutting your spiritual life right off. And this is your spiritual master. This spiritual master, it's Prabhupada. You know, it's just, he's right there. It's spirit. It's like you enter his room, you're already in the spiritual world, right? We know that. It's temple's a spiritual world. But then you enter his room. That's not just a spiritual world, that's a certain room. You offer obeisances. So then I offered obeisances in and out every time. Like I say, if I served him lunch, if I gave him 6 chapatis, one at a time. So every time you put it down, offer obeisances, you just keep running. He never said, "You've done it enough." You know, because every time you do it, it helps your spiritual life. Whether you like it or not, it shows there's some humility there, bowing down before someone. You know, Garga Muni has that story, right? And, "Why should I bow down?" He said back in the Swamiji days. Prabhupada said, "Well, do it and then you'll know." Okay? That means if you do, then you actually, you'll get realizations of what's going on. Any questions so far? So Prabhupada, there in Los Angeles, he looked at me, he took out a crisp $50 bill, and he said, "Here, this is for your son." So like I say, I learned from Prabhupada, if he offered me something, I accepted it. Because initially I would go through the process, "No, Prabhupada, you're my spiritual master." But I learned that I enjoyed him giving me things. And I knew he enjoyed giving things to me because I was his servant. You know, I could consider that I wasn't doing anything. That's a fact. But he didn't look at it that way. You know, one time he told me, he said, "You have saved my life." This was in Vrindavan. He said, "You saved my life." So he saw things very differently than I saw things. You know, he was appreciative of what we did. So he gave me the 50, I took it. So then he looks at Nanda, he said, "This is for your son." And right away, "Prabhupada, I can't take that." So now I'm feeling embarrassed. I took the money. Here's the better one, he's not taking money. And Prabhupada looked at him, he said, "It's not for you." He said, "It's for your son." So Prabhupada always had the answer. You couldn't win in a chess match with Prabhupada. He would just always win. And that's how he was. Because he wanted to, because he needed to. Because that's how we learned. Any, Maharaj, you were going to... What's that? Yeah, that was, yes. Like I say, I go off on tangents.
What was that?
Well, I finally finished the story about Prabhupada giving the money.
Oh.
So, but he would, he gave me so many things. When I was in Los Angeles, we were there one time, it was winter time, Los Angeles winter. It gets very, very cold. And of course, his room didn't have any heat at all. His room did, but I was in the servants' quarters. I didn't have any heat. Oh. We okay?
Yeah.
So, Prabhupada, as I said, Prabhupada would walk around his rooms. You have to see his rooms in New Dwarka to understand it. He could make a circle, go down the hallway, go through his sitting room, go through the bedroom, then there was another sitting room, and he'd come back around. And he would just do that. He'd chant rounds, pull down a counter bead. He was chanting his rounds. One time I'm sitting in there, and I'm preparing his lunch, and he's walking around. So there was a door on there, but you never closed your door. That was, no. Didn't close the door. So the door's open, though he would watch me. I had a setup in the servants' quarters, 2 cinder blocks with a 1 by 12, so 12-inch wide shelf. So I had supplies under the shelf, and I prepared his lunch on the shelf. And on the floor, I had a little 2-burner gas stove that had been hooked up to the heater. But now it's a gas stove. And so he would walk, and he would watch me. He said I was neat, everything, he appreciated it. But he came in one time. He was chanting really loudly. This is when he had heard some not so good news from Juhu in 73. There was always bad news coming out of Juhu. So he would get very upset. This was major property. I mean, it's the most successful temple in Bombay. I think maybe number 2. It's the top 1 or 2 temples in all of the Bombay area. So Prabhupada knew it, but this man kept trying to get it back, and it just wasn't going to happen. Anyway, he's walking around. I can hear him chant. I never heard Prabhupada chanting japa. He was very quiet, but you could hear his beads in his bead bag because he's chanting on them like, and you could hear him saying the mantra. And he comes by and he stops right at my door. He said, when you're in anxiety, he said, you chant very loudly to Krishna. We know Prabhupada was never in any material. He was in anxiety for Krishna. Huh? We know that. That's our goal. Not to ever be in anxiety, but it's to be in anxiety for Krishna. That's our goal. So he said, when you chant very loudly. And then he said, even as a grahasta, he said, it's not difficult to chant 16 rounds. He said, I also, as householder, he said, you chant 4 rounds in the morning and 4 rounds before each meal. This also lets you know how many meals Prabhupada ate a day. He was eating 3 meals a day. And he said, that way, you get your 16 rounds. He said, but if you don't chant the 4 rounds before that meal, you can't eat that meal. He said, then you'll get all your rounds done. Everyone likes to eat. So Prabhupada even showed, it's possible that when, chanting those 16 rounds, it can be difficult sometimes. But he showed very practical things. I mean, I hear sometimes people say Prabhupada said they should all be done before Mangal Arati. And, these things. Prabhupada was so reasonable. Again, I'm telling all my godbrothers how much he spoiled me by his reasonableness and how his kindness to everyone. Imagine being with Prabhupada for over 2 years, and no matter what you do, he, solves it and carries on with you. You never feel like you're interfering, you're not afraid. I was never afraid to go into Prabhupada's room. That's not true. When he rang the bell when I was sleeping, I was always afraid to go. That's what I mean. You didn't always go in with a smile. At least I did. Maybe Shyamasundar did. He always went in and got a laugh, but I didn't. And I know he didn't too. I've been chastised along with him many times. So, Prabhupada took care of us. He took care of us in that way. But what was it? Yes, Maharaj.
You talk about his meals.
About
Is it his meals?
his meals.
Tell us, what was his breakfast?
The meal
It's
was
a
very
motivated question.
very, he never changed while I was with him. He did change things at times, which I just recently found out. Like from 67, after he had that illness, I was just talking to Govinda Dasi in Hawaii last week, and I also seen something Nanda Kumar wrote on social media, and they both said the same thing about Prabhupada, and it had, none of them had contacted one another, but it's just a topic that came up. So Govinda Dasi and him both told me at night is all they gave Prabhupada was hot milk. That was it. Govinda Dasi said with nothing in it, sometimes a little honey. Nanda Kumar said the same thing. And they both said, very rarely he would say, I'll have puffed rice, muri. Puffed rice with peanuts, chants, very tasty. Very nice because it's light. You can, fill your belly in the evening and get up early. So rarely, she said, he asked for that. Now this is all the way from 67 to 1971. Now 71 he started, and his diet became better. When I joined him in 72, every evening he was eating a full meal. Puris, usually puris were very often there. He would come in sometimes and say, make potato eggplant sabji. So this was 9 o'clock at night. He would have 3-4 puris, eggplant potato sabji, and there's always a sweet sandesh, and always hot milk. And me, it was always sweeten it, sugar, honey. That was it, sugar. He didn't care. He put sugar, put honey, put hot milk. Sometimes one evening he'd come up and he showed me how to make parathas. He said, I'll show you. He didn't even ask me. He didn't say, do you know how to make parathas? Because he knew I didn't know how to make parathas. He was very, so he said, I'll show you how to make paratha. So that night he's having parathas in hot milk. One night he asked for chips, which I interpreted as potato chips from the US style, but he actually meant fries, English chips. And I bring him into the room with his hot puris and these chips, which wasn't easy, making little potato chips. And I put it down. This is my first days again. And I put it down and he looks, he said, what is this? I said, they're chips, bro. He said, these are not chips. Oh man, I go back out of the room, I'm rolling my puri. I'm already, I was very easily defeated, I didn't come back with, all right, I'll stop. I would just put my head down and I roll the next puri and bring it in. Again, so on a little plate, you slide it onto his thing, it's puffed up. He never brought in a puri or chapati that didn't look like the globe. It had to look like it, otherwise forget it. At least that was my standard, that was how we did it. So I brought it in, slide it down, offer a basin, says, sit up. He said, oh, this is very good. It was still potatoes fried in ghee, so I guess it was pretty much the same. But when he saw it, he couldn't recognize it. But he never asked for it again in 2.5 years, so I think I spoiled his whole enjoyment of chips by my interpretation. So you can't interpret your spiritual master, you have to know. You have to know his language. So his diet, morning, right after class. There, it's got to be there. And same thing, milk or yogurt, hot milk or yogurt, usually yogurt, and whatever fruits, were available then. It's not like today you can get anything from anywhere. And then, we didn't get mangoes in Los Angeles, what to speak of anywhere else. You got mangoes in Hawaii, May and June, So fruit, there was always banana, apple, orange, and whatever else. Watermelon, sometimes I would just bring in, the watermelon. You cut a whole watermelon and cut it down the middle, and then you would cut out the center, just the center, which is the sweetest part of the melon. So we'd give them all the center melon things. So that was the fun things, you could do for Prabhupada. And no grains practically. He would have, and I wasn't into the chickpea thing. I didn't bring him ginger and chickpeas, ever. And he never asked for it. So I don't know. All of us were programmed to eat ginger and chickpeas every morning. Only 5 chickpeas. Because if you're a brahmachari, you eat more than 5 chickpeas, who knows what's going to happen to you? You just explode right up there. So, these how things got interpreted from Prabhupada. And I don't know where anything came from. Prabhupada used to just stack on prasadam for all of us. And these poor people, You know, the devotees, it was always budget. Ultimately, everything comes down to money, right? It's always about the money. Anyway, Prabhupada wasn't like that. He liked to see devotees eat, because he knew that was the best thing we were doing. You know, we were making the most advancement by eating prasadam. And he said to me, he said, if it wasn't for the chanting of Hare Krishna, he said, my disciples could not accomplish anything. He said they've taken so much intoxicants, so much illicit sex. So he saw that as it's just completely boiled our minds, and you know, we were incompetent, you know. He said except for the chanting of Hare Krishna, he said they couldn't do anything. But I go one step higher. It was only because of his chanting, you know. I can't speak, I'm sure everyone was chanting very nicely. I know my chanting wasn't getting me anywhere, although I was still getting next to Prabhupada, making believe I was chanting. Imagine sitting with him on a plane for 12 hours, you're right next to him. What do you do? You know, what do you do? I don't even know what I did. I just sat there comfortably. For some reason, I was really covered. I was very much covered over by Maya, some type of Maya, to like not worry about sitting next to him. You know, if I was chanting, I'm sure I didn't have my hand in my bead bag for 12 hours. You know I didn't read his books. I'm probably the only person that sat next to him and never read one of his books. Imagine. That's bad. I just thought of that just now, I'm getting back to the lunch menu, but with something else now.
Well, you were going to talk about the meals, but I have another question.
Okay, we'll get back to the meals. You can remind me. Yes, go ahead while you're remembering your question.
Okay, well, it's about the break fast, you know, at Ekadashi time.
Oh, yeah.
There's all this muss and fuss about...
Didn't exist.
I got a call from a lady the other day. I want to know when to break fast for Ekadashi. And I told her, just break the breakfast.
Just
break
eat.
But is it from 8:37 to
8:39.
Yeah, and I said,
Sometimes it's 5 minutes, and if you don't do it, you're going to go to hell, all of you.
Across the street, it's a different time.
Yeah. We followed whatever they did in India, we did all over the world. And there was no break fast. There was a breakfast, that's all. It wasn't a time, it was after class. That was it. And he never did a Nirjala Ekadasi, nor did he would rather you eat and go out and distribute his books than sit back like a saint. And he would consider you a saint if you ate grains, because you said, I can only survive today if I eat grains. If I'm going to pass out, he'd say, well, eat grains and go distribute books. I'm serious. That's what he didn't. He wanted you to do something practical, like he said to the devotee in Vrindavan, day after day. Srila Prabhupada, Savior of the whole world. Do something practical. I listen to you glorifying me every day. What good is your good? It's like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Well, cook something for me, damn it, you know? You love me so much. Prabhupada wanted to see proof of love. You all know the story I told him, huh? You know that story, Guru? When I went in New York, I told you about the garlands. Prabhupada put the garlands. This was a very bad day for me. Very bad. I was in heavy Maya, sitting next to Prabhupada, and I was just miserable, like I never imagined. I was so unhappy. And now we're arriving at the most exciting temple, 1973, on the whole planet, New Dwarka, with hundreds of devotees, you know. Nice, qualified, eager. Prabhupada's coming back after 6 months or so. And we're ecstatic. So as soon as the plane lands, they open the door, you can hear the chanting already. And Prabhupada's smiling, you know, he's going to see all of his people, his followers. And he always left space sannyasis, either not. That was one of the things. Prabhupada never talked to stewardesses. He always talked to me. If they looked our way and said, "Do you need anything?" then I would look at Prabhupada and translate it from stewardess to servant and say, "Do you need anything?" And then he'd say no, and I'd say no. Or he'd say hot milk, I'd say hot milk. But he really, again, he kept his focus very, he didn't make nice with ladies, or as he called it, fish. He didn't do any fish, to try to impress someone. I told you the other day, in the airline in Europe and Italy, and the woman right in front of him was a pretty Italian lady. And Prabhupada turned to his disciples and said, "She's very pretty." And she heard him, and she turns around and said, "Well, thank you." And Prabhupada said, "It's not a compliment." He said, "It's just a fact." This is what Shama Sundar's talking about. You never know what, the things that come out of his mouth. They're just like, and he could say things like that without any material tinge. And that's what he explained to her. "I'm just telling you, you're pretty." But not out of some desire, to satisfy her in some way. No, it was always fun. Which one were we on now? The meals. So lunch, his lunch. Anyone here should be able to say everything that was on his lunch plate. Rice, chapatis, dal. Chapati had a little ghee on it. So many sabjis. With his cooker, you could make no problem 4 sabjis. So whatever was around. And I had no training. I had training from Kirtanananda Maharaj at the time, and but I knew how to put everything together. And I guess, cooking's, it's a science, but it's also an art. Some people recently in Hawaii, Narayani came. She asked me. She didn't ask me. She said to me, "I'm going to have to come back next life to cook." This is Narayani Prabhu, Mataji, whatever you like. Now imagine, she says, I don't know how to cook. She's never cooked. She was a pujari for 20 years in Calcutta, but she didn't cook. So she said, "I'm going to have to come back again." Very sweet. I said to her, "I'm cooking 3 times a week. Come in." And I was cooking Raj Bhog. Rice, chapatis, dal, and sabjis. He liked bitter melon. You start your meal with bitter melon because it increases appetite, gives you appetite, and aids the digestion. And that was simple. I would turn the lid of the cooker over, and that's a wok, tiny wok, like that big. And then put your ghee in there, a little turmeric and salt, and just throw in a bunch of nickel size or quarter size bitter melon, and you fry them and make them crispy. So that was one of them. He liked a wet vegetable. I was telling you the one he asked for 7 days in a row was at the manor. He said, "Today," he said, "you can make me wet vegetable, cauliflower, potato, peas, paneer," like that. And he explained, because I didn't know. He said, "You make the paneer, and of course that whey is what you use for the wet vegetable." So he used both sides, the paneer and the wet. He said, and of course you deep fry the paneer, you deep fry the cauliflower, you deep fry the potatoes, and you put them all in there. Of course you don't deep fry the peas, you don't have to deep fry those, so they just go in. So there's a lot of ghee in there. And that was it, little spicing, basic spicing. He never said much to me about spicing. Again, I think because he realized that, I told you that was, Tamal Krishna loved what I cooked. He was very fussy and he really liked it. He would, if he was around, if he was in town, he would always be there for prasadam to get Prabhupada's Mahaprasadam, because that's what he would eat for lunch as well. It was Mahamaha, but it was also what he wanted to eat. So the one afternoon, I guess it was especially happy, and we're in Mayapur, and we go into the room, we're in the room together, and Tamal, which was amazing, Tamal said, Srutakirti is excellent cook. I'm saying it's amazing because I never heard Tamal say anything very appreciative about what I did as a servant. He pushed me around a bit. He pushed me out of an elevator once. It was early on. I was with Prabhupada for 2 months, and it was in Bombay at Kartikeya's house. So he was on the 3rd floor. It was literally a 2-man elevator that took like 2 minutes to go 1 story. You know? So it had to go up to the 3rd floor. So I was regularly going in and out with Prabhupada. We'd go up and down on the morning walk. So this morning, Tamal, Krishna Maharaj arrived. So, you know, he comes up to Prabhupada's room for the walk, and we all come out together. And Prabhupada's walking, so I'm like walking in behind Prabhupada into the elevator, and Tamal's like, just like, boom, gone. You know, he said, "You're not getting in here," he said, you know. He gets in the elevator, pushes the button, the door closes. So it's, you know, just 2 flights of stairs. So of course I just run down the stairs to meet Prabhupada. But the elevator's so slow that I'm down there waiting for them. So the door opens and I'm standing there, and Tamal, he said, "Prabhupada, there's Srutakirti." Prabhupada, "Kirti means expert," he said. I went down 2 flights of stairs. So Prabhupada was fun, you know. The Kirti means expert. But this day, he's in front of Prabhupada and he says, "Srutakirti, he's expert cook." And Prabhupada said, "Yes," he said, "he cooks very nice American prasadam." So that was my specialty, to take Indian fare and make it American. You know, that was my expertise. I put a sign on the other day I saw in Vancouver. It said, "Chinese style Indian cuisine." Yeah, I like that one. I thought, ooh. And there was a car parked in front, and I said, "This is not my car. You would not catch me going to a place that advertised themselves in that way, Chinese style Indian food." So Prabhupada liked that. And he had a banana. A banana was like customary fare at the end of lunch. And a sweet, a milk sweet. Once in Los Angeles, most of this is in 1973. He was there a lot. So I had a way of doing things with Prabhupada. Like I said, I tried to be sneaky and tricky. You know, I was do things not direct, like indirect. Once Shalavati, see, they would always, the thing when you serve Prabhupada, you were always in and out of the kitchen around lunchtime. So you would have to go through different rooms. Sometimes you have to go through pujari rooms. And, pujaris would be in there, the ladies would be in there, you go in the kitchen. So there were always questions. When Shalavati would ask me things. And that's one she was asking me, when you serve lunch to Prabhupada, what do you do? So I told her. So she come in through the pujari room. And Shalavati, she was like our first official pujari. People would be sent to her to learn. She was in a female body. Just in case you don't know, Shalavati is female. But she was the pujari for the society. Anyone needed training, they would come to Los Angeles. And I guess with that role, she, accepted that responsibility. She was also the pujari for Radha Damodar, our first pujari, when Radha Damodar party left New Vrindavan. She was their pujari. So she says to me, "Sruta," she said, "guess what I'm doing?" I said, "What are you doing?" She says, "Well, I bring the deities their plates, Raj Bhog offering. And then I go back in and make another round of puris and bring them hot puris. And then I go back in, bring them more hot puris." And I'm like, okay. I would never say anything. I said, okay. So of course I went into Prabhupada. I said, "Prabhupada," I said, "Shalavati just told me." He just shook his head. He said, "You can't do that." He said, "They're eating. You can't be in and out of their room." He said, "While they're eating lunch." He said, "Tell her, just do as I told you." He said, and he would say, "Always inventing, always changing. You Americans always want to change. Always condemn changes," he said. "Everything changes." So then one afternoon, or one morning, I guess, getting the Raj Bhog, playing all the plates. And now they're making milk sweets in New Dwarka. But their milk sweets are no longer milk sweets. They turned into dried fruit and nuts, peanut butter, and Quaker puffed rice, things like that. This is because we're American. We know how to make things streamlined. You know, we don't do things fast, efficient, make more money at it. Prabhupada would say that. You know how to make money. No, we know how to get things going, you know. So I brought these sweets into Prabhupada with his sandesh, of course, or rasgula, or gulab jamun, or so many other things he's given us to give to the lordships. So he's eating his lunch, he's going through, he's eating out back and forth, you know, bringing chapatis. Sometimes we'll say a little more dal, a little more rice. He would eat 3 to 6 chapatis every day, which is what I was saying. When I was with him, he was at his healthiest stage in those years. I can tell by how he ate and how he traveled. You know, that's why when you see Prabhupada and you say, oh, there's Sruta again. That's when he was going around all over the place. You know, you don't see him traveling so much from mid-76 on. You know, then that was it. So he was very healthy and eating very well. And that's what he always said for all of us. You eat what you can digest. There's no other process for being healthy than, you know, you eat what's good for you, you know, and you eat variety. Prabhupada always ate variety of everything. And if you look, you'll see in places he said, that's how you get your vegetables. By offering everything to the Lord, he says, it becomes sanctified, he says, and you'll become healthy. You'll get your vitamins that way. By offering foodstuffs. Yes, Maharaj?
I had another question about food. The question is about Ekadashi.
Okay.
I travel around all over the place, and there's so many different standards. Like, oh, sesame seeds, you cannot have that on Ekadashi. And I said, where did you get that from? Or mustard seeds, or you can't use bacon, eggplant on Ekadashi because of the seeds in there.
Carrots.
Oh, carrots.
Carrots.
Also. Well, that's a new one for me.
Yeah. That's a Gaudiya.
I mean,
Regular salt.
Hmm?
Some people say you have to use Himalayan salt, you can't use regular salt.
Anyway, we had a very...
could you give us the standard specifically just for Ekadashi?
Also, Govinda Dasi told me her standard from the beginning too, and it was the same when I was there. You would make a potato, some potato sabji. We had peanuts and raisins. It was always there, peanuts and raisins. And also, peanuts have been taken off the shelf as well by many. It's a legume. It's not. I don't know. It's this. It's that. It's this. Anyway, we ate peanuts and raisins. We had carrot halava, which is also a no-no by some local groups and things. Carrot halava, but that was there. We didn't use powdered sugar at that time because we knew it had like 3% something in it. So we were that strict. We have at least avoided powdered sugar, but there was no restrictions that I was aware of. Cornstarch, right? It had a little cornstarch in it. I wasn't traveling with Prabhupada. Sachinandana Swami, no, the other German Swami. No. Current, he's a guru now. Bhakti Vaibhava. So he's strict. He comes from Germany. They have a tendency to be, very regulated. Strictness is a very good thing there. There's so many stories. When Prabhupada first came there, Hansadutta was there at that time. So he dressed white. So they all dressed white. Because they're followers, strict followers. And then they, begin seeing things about Prabhupada. So all of a sudden they all have Prabhupada hats. Not just a hat, like it had to be a Prabhupada hat. And they learned how he chanted, which I would do too. The Fay Prabhupada, his walking around and chanting was very often like this. He would put one arm behind his back. You can watch in the videos. And that's how he would his hand out and he walked. So they're all like, this is in the temple room now. You got 20 German brahmacharis walking around. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. We heard Prabhupada. So he arrives and there's this big banner across the main street. The Führer is coming, it says in German. Now that's like a totally banned word. Now you can't even use that. So it's got this sign. So you can imagine the understanding people. Here's this other person coming, this Indian man coming in now. He's the new Führer, And they're all in Prabhupada, imitating him as much as, because they wanted to be like Prabhupada, which that's nice. So we're on the morning walk, and it's Ekadasi. And they're walking through the fields. This field, that field. It was at the Schloss, is what it's called, the Schloss. So it's, And then Prabhupada takes a turn, and Brahmacharya, Prabhupada, you don't want to go down that path. That's so funny. Imagine saying that to your guru. You don't want to go down that path. And Prabhupada says, why? He says, well, Prabhupada, it's wheat. You learn? And if we walk through there, we're going to raise the dust of wheat, and we're going to breathe it in. We'll be breaking Ekadasi. This is our society. That was then. It's worse now, That was easy. And Prabhupada looked at him and stuck his cane. He said, don't be a fanatic. I learned that so well from Prabhupada. I say I'm fanatically not fanatic. That's my problem. Prabhupada was in the middle. You don't want to be this side. You just want to use your intelligence. As he said, do the needful. When Pradyumna's wife wrote Prabhupada, she was Pujari, and now she's got her little son, Aniruddha. And she writes and says, Prabhupada, I'm having difficulty, doing my seva, my puja to the deities. Prabhupada said, your child is your deity. Imagine this is how, we just didn't know anything. He said, child worship is deity worship. That's obviously, if you don't raise you spend all your time with the deity, your child's sitting in the corner crying. So Prabhupada said, you hear Prabhupada talk about his parents, you hear nothing about how much he loved them, how much they loved him. All his father did was pray to everyone, please make him servant of Srimati Radharani. But he was always there with them. He talks about times he would go on walks with his father, shopping. He tells those stories. It was with his father. When he would ask for puris at night when he was a child, he said, my mother, she would say, I'll give you muri, puffed rice, late. Prabhupada, no. He said, I want puris and sabji. And his mother would say, it's too late. I don't know, Abai, whatever. It's too late. He's telling me this. I'm massaging him in bed in Juhu with mosquito net over us. And he's totally just absorbed in his childhood. He went on for half an hour. So many stories you'll hear, they're all from this 1.5 hour where he just talked to me. And I would sit there and think, why is he telling me? I always felt like this nobody is telling me these wonderful things, I know why. Now I know why. But he would say these things. And then again, whether my puris and his father, he said, my father said, if he wants puris, give him puris. And then he looked at me and said, perhaps my father knew. And that's all he would say. Because he would never say anything. What's he going to say? Maybe my father knew I came from the spiritual world, I've spread this movement. Krishna consciousness. No, he said, perhaps my father knew. And he said it a few times. Which means, of course, Prabhupada knew what he was doing. Why do you think he was so much urgency traveling around so much? Because that's how he was successful. Just by walking around. When I was in Russia, I told they all became devotees because when he was walking around in Red Square, he was chanting, the birds were hearing him, he was treading on insects, whatever it was. Prabhupada gave everyone their start. That's how I see it. Even we give them their start. Obviously it's Prabhupada doing it. But I think sometimes in some very direct ways. There was, did I finish on Prashad? I covered lunch pretty well. Ekadasi,
You're doing pretty good.
What am I lacking in?
I just wanted to clarify.
Yes. No,
use of seeds at Ekadashi time, because in every state in India there's a different standard for Ekadashi. In one state, they say you can't use mustard seeds. Another one, you say you will, or sesame seeds, or whatever the case. Or like I said, eggplant. What was Prabhupada's standard as he traveled around? And I asked...
No beans, no grains. That's all. No beans, no grains.
Thank you.
Yes, that was it.
Okay, got another question. In relation to food.
Good. We have all evening now. So
Okay, because food is important to everybody.
Yes,
And,
you're right.
This comes up all the time, because we have a lot of fanatics around, okay?
Yes, we do.
And what about the use of frozen peas? Is that an absolute no-no? Especially if you're living up in Canada.
I wouldn't say anything's an absolute no. See, that's it. It's always time, place, and circumstance. You know. Peas are wonderful. I probably used frozen peas that day. I cooked for Prabhupada every day, you know. They were probably, you know, it's getting fresh peas is not the easiest thing to do. I mean, basically, they're frozen. That's it.
Sally Agarwal.
Sally.
She said that she showed Prabhupada frozen peas, and he said, "Oh, in our country we dry them." But he, you know, he used them.
He didn't say not to.
He
No.
didn't say, "Oh."
No, he wasn't.
What did he say, sir?
He said in our country.
He said in
we
India
dry
we
things."
dry them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more item.
Okay.
One more item in regards to food, and that is canned tomatoes. Most of the year you can't get tomatoes, and usually they're just coming from, shipped in from Mexico, and they're hard and tasteless.
Yes, you're right.
And
No taste.
absolutely disgusting. And you know, and you don't, you look at them and you say, how can I offer this to Krishna?
Yeah. I found Whole Foods organic tomatoes are very tasty, the canned tomatoes. In Hawaii, we pay $5 a pound for a tomato. It's so useless. It's just nothing. You wouldn't even know it was a tomato by smelling it or tasting it. And a lot of food is like that everywhere, especially in America. But of course, Prabhupada said, if you grow your own, it's 100 times better. Yes.
Many stories, some from you about Prabhupada taking prasadam, that he would always be very meditative and quiet and never really engage in conversation, especially for lunch. Is that what
He had a method. I would say Prabhupada, he was very, he was so nice. See, that's what I mean. Everything he did was with consideration, with, consciousness of who he was dealing with. So he could be talking to, this person, a few of his disciples, and like I said, as soon as he would see the plate, and he said that, he said to one of his servers, a lady was bringing prasadam, and she brought it like 10 minutes late. He was very scheduled, and he said, I was expecting it. He said, and as soon as you're expecting, he says, digestion starts. Starts before you even, it starts just by seeing. But he was saying it starts, if I'm eating at 1 o'clock, and every day it's there at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, he said, my juices start. He didn't say my juices, but he said digestion starts. He said, so you have to bring it on time. But aside from that, as soon as you see it, as soon as you see prasadam, and then that's why we use your hands instead of utensils. Everything is part of the experience. And when you touch it, you know the temperature, it prepares you, So he would eat, he would use a spoon, so he put his spoon in, but Prabhupada always ate with his hands, his lunch.
But he always was...
But what he would do was as soon as it would come, he would, this new Dwarkadis happened. So if you've been there, his, called the choki, his table, little 6-inch high table, would be against the wall. And in front of that was, 1 foot square straw mat. And he would sit on the straw mat, face the wall. So when I would bring it in and put it down, and he'd walk over from his desk, and he'd sit down, and then he'd say, come. So they'd come over, and he'd give them each a piece from his plate and say, now you can go. So no one would be there when he ate, especially lunch. No, you're right, it was very meditative. Always, everything. Like I said, even when he opened the white bag, it seemed like a meditation. What to speak of when he was putting on tilak. I always say, just, meditating on him, just watching him, you made advancement. Just by seeing him put his tilak on his, these big ones, his arms, if you saw his arms, but the big things, you'll put the arm, But every day, and every morning, in every part of his body. Before, he had his routine, again. I'd give him a massage, and then he would, I like to be demonstrative, because how he did it, he would hold out his hand at the end of the massage. Now he's got this little red gumsha on around him, and he's got that beautiful golden looking body, and he's got, little skinny legs. He's just adorable, and he'd hold his hand out, and he'd just put a little mustard oil, and then he'd put his little finger from his right hand, he'd put it in his ears, and put it up his nose, and he'd oil all the gates, every day. That was the last thing he did after massage. Then he'd take his bath, he always used soap, and then he would come out, and on his bed, everything was laid out, ready for him. That was the process. They had a single bed, so his coping, the top piece, and so the two pieces of coping, and his dhoti was laid there, and then the kurta. And the kurta, I buttoned these two buttons because it would fit over his head, so I figured it was two less buttons. See, that's what he said. First-class servant, he does things without asking. I would put, in the cold weather, he would put on his long underwear. Before going on the morning walk, he had his thermos, called thermal long undies, So I would put them on for him. And then put his dhoti on. So it was always fun, He was deity. It's deity worship. Only, as he said, he's always moving around. So it wasn't like you go on the altar, you go back, he's going to be right there. Well, Brahmacharya Prabhupada, I always want to sit at your lotus feet. Prabhupada said, it'll be very difficult, I'm always traveling. So then when Satsvarup was the only person that received instructions for how to be a servant. The only servant out of a dozen of us who I sat with him for hours explaining what I did. That never happened before. And he is Satsvarup Maharaj, so he took notes on everything. So one day, I'm giving Prabhupada his massage, we're getting ready to pass the baton to Maharaj. I was, and I'm massaging Prabhupada, and Satsvarup he's taking notes and things. And so finally, Prabhupada says, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm taking notes on, how he gives massage." Prabhupada laughs. He said, "That's like learning how to swim on the land." You couldn't do anything right for Prabhupada. That was the thing. Whatever you did was wrong. See, that's the humor in Prabhupada. So then I'm telling Satsvarup Maharaj, I said, so it was winter when he came. It was I literally left right at the end of 1973, and we're in LA, and it's cold. So I'm explaining to him what to do. So later on, he says to me, it may have been years later, he said, Sruti, he said, you remember when you told me about putting on the long underwear? I said, yeah. He said, Prabhupada wouldn't let me do it. He said, I don't know, maybe I couldn't do it. Prabhupada, you had to be fast, You had to be fast. You had to, no hesitation. You just had to know what you were doing. Again, in New Dwarka, for the morning walk. Every morning, Prabhupada puts on his gaj, puts on his tilak, and he sit up very straight. Sit up straight. He didn't lean. He sat up. He had his thread. So now, of course, there's 3 or 4 or 5 people in the room going on the morning walk who are, the big devotees. Somebody asked me in Montreal the other day. They said, "Will there be any big swamis there?" I said, "Well, some of them aren't very heavy, but I don't know. Maybe some big fat one will come." What are you looking for? Big sannyasi? So see, that's the way Prabhupada would do things. If you said something that was he would say something, You know, you be offensive with humor. You know, that's how you do things, you know. So I didn't use the word fat. I just said, well, you know, it's a Brahmananda's passed away. But we have two very big sannyasis here. I'm very proud of my godbrothers. So, yes.
My last.
Your last request?
Last one.
Okay.
Just to clarify things. You know, because our movement the culture has changed, and it will
Yes.
continue to do so.
Yes.
Now, you know, and we go through crazes every 2 years.
Yes.
You know, just like, pretty much like what goes on outside. You know. So the one thing is about Nirjala Ekadashi. Did Prabhupada ever talk to you? Or did he honor Nirjala? Let's say a day when no one takes no jala.
No,
Water.
not even water.
Yeah.
No,
Did he ever talk to you about that?
no. He was more interested in us going out on Sankirtan. You know. See, that's, you know, we have such a different society. You know, like Maharaj was speaking. Prabhupada, you know, his society, it's a preaching mission. And everyone connected with it has to figure out how they can assist. You know, even if it's just giving a little dakshin every month. Somehow or other, if you want to be part of Prabhupada's mission, you have to be engaged in preaching, dressing the deities, cooking. Everything's part of it. There's nothing that isn't. But something you have to sweat. You have to give blood. Ambarish said to me once, he said, if you want to always think of Krishna, he said, just give your money to him. And he doesn't sleep at night, Ambarish, you know, trying to get this TOVP built, Prabhupada's instruction. He's always meditating. That's it. Whatever it is you have, if you give that to Krishna, you're always going to be meditating on it. That's the process. But not just, you know, get connected and go on with your life. You know, get on Facebook every now, argue with people on what's the latest, whatever is going on, you know, the argument of the day. So many of them. No, he wanted people out there all the time. Like he said, one person back at the temple, everybody else go out on Harinam, you know. Then Harinam became book distribution. We went from the little Mridanga, that was it. Everybody go out on Harinam. Then it was everybody go out on book distribution, because there was even a bigger Mridanga. You know, and like you say, you know, Prabhupada, he traveled around. Who did he speak to? All of his, like you say, the choir. He spoke to us to do what he was doing, you know, what he did. You know, he did it, so he was passing it on all the time. Go out there, give Krishna. I was one of the people that came back around in 1996, whether good or bad for all of you.
Good.
I had, you know, from 84 to that time, I was living 45 minutes from the closest temple, which was the Philadelphia temple. I had a business, I had 3 children, a wife, and that's, you know, that's family life. And I would go to the temple on special occasions, things like that, you know. And then the internet came along, I guess 92, 90, somewhere. Everybody by then, we already had AOL, America Online. You know, that was, they don't even laugh because I don't know what it sounded like in those days. That's how we connected to the internet. It was like a couple minutes of that sound, you know, before it would go on. You know, and then you scrolled very slowly if you were lucky. But I did that, and it's also when I started writing. I didn't even start writing. I got on, at that time, it was Yahoo Groups or something. So I saw this group, it said Prabhupada Katha. Now I was dried up, and I thought, wow. So I got on, and there was one argument, this is 1995, 4, and all they're doing is talking about Ritvik and this and Sridhar. Everybody's fighting about everything. And it was nothing, there was no Katha at all. You know? So I happened to have a letter that I wrote to Kawadri in the very, like, when we got to Vrindavan. So I'd been with Prabhupada 1 month. And I just tell him how wonderful Prabhupada was. And I told the little stories, Prabhupada saying, then be very difficult. I'm always traveling. Somebody said, did Gandhi, did he chant Ram? I heard he chanted Ram. Prabhupada said, I don't know, I wasn't there. He just had it, he always had everything. Somebody said, where's Mount Sumeru? And he said, it's very high up there. He said, in the sky. That's what he said, it's in the sky. Yeah, he just, Practical. My favorite one was, I don't know, I wasn't there. That was the best one, Because everyone, Gandhi was like, And Prabhupada would flatter, but behind the scenes he would say he was just a rascal with, his female this and that. But of course he accomplished a lot. And he liked his plan for India. Yeah. Yes?
It seemed like Prabhupada wanted to get to the essence, and when we were bringing up the trivia, he would just say these things that this.
Yeah, he wasn't into small talk.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the air, and see, that's how Prabhupada knew. He knew he was, as soon as you approach, he knew, So sometimes people would come up to us, and sometimes they'd come right up to him. We'd be sitting just like you're sitting there in the chairs at the airport. We'd just be sitting. So one time, one person came up and said, why do you shave your heads? Prabhupada just turned to Paramahamsa. He said, you talk to him. Like that was it, But that was very unusual. But he knew, he knew, when he just said, you talk to him. That was all. The most fun was traveling, which now it's just the opposite. It's the least fun. The most fun is being in the temple. Then the most fun was being out of the temples because you saw Prabhupada like out of his element, He like left the Vaikuntha atmosphere and, had to make everywhere else Vaikuntha. So that was always the most fun because of how he dealt in every situation. I told that one where, we had 20 hours of flying and we stopped in Bangkok. In between, I think it was Bangkok. And the luggage got transferred, it all got taken off, had to go back on, it was the same, it was not as aggravating, but just as aggravating it was then. Prabhupada would say, in India, they would get up on the stool, that was a security check, you go up, just pat you down, and he'd get out, he'd always say, they don't even trust a sadhu, he'd say. No one, he said, no one is trusted, If we get annoyed that they would, do it. Well, they didn't like people touching him, Like I said, he left space between him and the next person on the flight. He walked 5 feet behind them. But I said, he kept, he kept to himself. Yes? So, the one thing, I was going to say too, we're in the Bangkok airport. So now the luggage, there's like 100 suitcases, our cases. He said, I need to bathe. He said, I have to refresh. He said, he didn't, I guess, he just wanted to. He said, I need to bathe. So I went in, I got him fresh clothes, just opened up, I have to find his clothes, towel, everything. So we go marching into this very busy airport, huge bathroom. It's got 20 sinks, 20 urinals, everything's all over. And I got his lota. And we sat there and right one of the sinks on the end, and I'm, putting the water in, and Prabhupada's squatting on the floor in his gamsha, and I'm bathing him, And people are walking in and out, and he's just taking a bath, And there's attendants over by the door, and it's just like exploding, And Prabhupada, that's what he was. See, that's what you call transcendental. He was aloof. There was no shame, no embarrassment. He was, And so people, by nature you try, the things that are like the most sensational, you try to act like you're ignoring. So everybody's just making believe they're not paying attention. So finally he's done. He's probably in a gamsha and all. He wasn't, I give him a towel, he dries, and put his clothes on, and we walk back out, and this man, he's shouting something at me. I don't know what he's saying, and we walk out, and I said, Prabhupada, I said, he said, I had to bathe. And that was it, he had to bathe. You see, no, but it was more than just, he had to bathe. It was something, he didn't, but I guess he was refreshed. But it was very funny. So that's what it's like, you know, when being around. You just never knew. You know? Oh, did go on.
Then when all the devotees were walking, all the sannyasis, and they were all carrying sticks, that man came up. You tell it.
I'm not sure.
He said, why all of these men carrying sticks? And Prabhupada said, to chase away the dog.
Yeah. The best one though, when everyone, tomorrow we could tell all kinds of airline stories. I wasn't even going to tell the puffed rice. I didn't even begin. See, this is what happens. But one really nice one. Well, it was nice, but not nice at all. It started out from Prabhupada left from Melbourne. Maybe had to go to Sydney, and then we were flying somewhere else. So it was just a stop off, and he hadn't had breakfast. It was an early flight. Meals were very, very important. I mean, as soon as the plane took off, Prabhupada was eating. Every time. Prasadam. So anyway, he was supposed to get his breakfast in Melbourne when he arrived there, because we left early. So we get there, and we're in the transit area, and we're there. And 5 minutes goes by, and 10 minutes goes by, and 15 minutes go, and Prabhupada's, he's furious, you know. So finally, here comes Madhvisa Maharaj. She's got the deity plate, you know, silver plates. And he brings it in, and of course he's apologized. Prabhupada, they wouldn't even let me in. He said I had to, you know. So immediately Prabhupada was fine. No, you know. He said right away, he said, okay. He said, it's okay, it's here now. And now they're calling us for the flight. There's the plates here, and they're announcing the flight. So Prabhupada said, we'll take it on, the flight. This was the only flight, one of, I think, 2 or 3 flights out of, I don't know how many dozens of flights, that they bought Prabhupada a first class ticket. And we're in a 747. Those of you that were on these 747s, they were immense. And in the back part, I don't know how many seats, there was 3, and then there's like 5, and then there's like 3. I mean, it was very big, wide. That's what it's called, wide body. So we're on one of them, but we're in first class. So we're right in the front 2 seats. And there's a second floor with a bar, very beautiful. And everybody's, you know, the stewardesses, you know, they're on top. Do you need anything? Let me bring it. As soon as you get on, give me your coat. It's like very different than being in the back of the plane. One note, Prabhupada didn't like first class. He said it's a waste of money. Because what he saw was, it's just food. And we don't need any of your nonsense anyway. So he didn't want, you know, first class thing. He was fine in coach. If you want to know how cheap he was, that's how he never liked first class. So anyway, we're in first class. And of course right away, and Prabhupada has his beautiful saffron coat with the peacock, you know, little peacock feathers on the ends and all the Jai Shri made for him. And so immediately I get on and take his coat off, and there's some lady, you know, let me take your coat, put it on. Oh wow, some people, yeah, here, I give her the coat. So then we sit down, and people are boarding, announcements are being made, and Prabhupada's eating. He's got a silver goblet with fresh squeezed orange juice in it, and all the nice fruits and berries and passion fruit. I gave passion fruit once. The first time I gave Prabhupada passion fruit was in Australia. He said, what is this? I said, it's passion fruit, Prabhupada. He said, oh, is it going to make me passionate? It was fun, always fun, you know? And Prabhupada is fun. What do you say? Sure, Prabhupada. Yeah, that's your problem, Prabhupada. Not mine. Not my problem at all. They're sitting eating very happily, and I'm sitting beside him, and lots of room. Again, it's first class seats, you know. So now they're, you know, put on the seat belts, seat backs up, you know, they're going to take off. No one says anything to Prabhupada because he's Prabhupada. He said when he was on the plane once, like I said, he would always get up when the light went on to sit down. Put your seatbelt on, he would get up and go to the bathroom. And And that meant I got up and followed him to the bathroom. So now two of us are making a scene, and the men or ladies are, sit down. And Prabhupada ignores, and he just keeps walking, and I look and go, and I follow behind. That's my role, just, sorry. And I stand outside the door, obedient dog, just sit there, you just sit. And he opens the door, he's like this. He said, when you're old, you do whatever you want. So when you're an old man, you do whatever you want, he said. And then he just walked, and he sat down. So he's doing that, he's eating. Everyone's running around, putting on seatbelts, but he's eating. And the plane takes off. So now we're going down the runway, and I'm literally holding the glass of water and the orange juice so it doesn't fly all over the place. And I'm not there either. He's just eating, and he reaches out, I take my hand off, and the plane, so finally we're up in the air. And then it happened. He said, I'm done. He said, I'm finished. He said, okay. Okay meant, it's yours. I had become bewildered. I said, okay. As soon as I grabbed the plate, I moved it over. I wasn't going to take from it, but I would take his remnants. So the stewardess comes up, said, I can take care of that for you. I said, sure, okay. I'm very happy. So she takes the plate. Now we're in the air for hours. Prabhupada does this, we're sitting. So then we land. And here's your coat. Give him his coat. He doesn't say anything. Yeah. So then we come to the exit, and she hands me the plates in a bag. And we're going out, and Prabhupada looks at me. He says, where's the prasadam? She threw it away. And he looks at me. And he didn't even yell. He just looked at me. And I just died because I forgot. Because I was enamored and bewildered by this, girl running around, serving us, I found it very wonderful. And it just completely, whatever, I forgot. And he let me know that was very bad. These are the kind of things, that's the beginning of your fall. That's that kind of a, see, Prabhupada was always Krishna conscious. And when you're always Krishna conscious, you're everything conscious. There's nothing outside of that. There's nothing outside. So you always know the proper thing to do. So Prabhupada always knew. But like when somebody said sometimes I fall into Maya, and Prabhupada said, no, you're always in Maya. Sometimes you fall into Krishna. We're so wonderful, fall into Maya. Yes, anything. It's 7:20. We can keep going if everybody's happy. Prabhupada, there's also kirtan. You would say kirtan. Everything is kirtan. Krishna kirtan. As long as you're speaking about Krishna, that's kirtan. But Prabhu, we should put an end now? Move on? Or? I'm fine. Maharaj.
I do have an announcement to make.
Okay.
We just wanted to take full advantage of the presence of Srila Prabhu here. And those of you, this is an address to the senior-most people here, Prabhupada disciples who had some time with him or some realizations about him. Siddhanta is ready to interview you, and that will start tomorrow. So particularly, he wants you to, well, it would be nice if you could volunteer. The list has been made. It's almost finished with Dr. Marshall here. And I think we're missing a couple of people that didn't get on the list. But Siddhanta wants you to prepare yourselves a little bit, to think about whatever you heard Prabhupada say, or whatever he did is in terms of gestures or anything, what did you learn from what he said? Or what were some saintly qualities that you picked up on him? Those two things. Traits of his saintliness, number one. Number two, what were the lessons that you learned from him? So if you can think about those things, maybe take some notes down, so it will save us a lot of time. The schedule is being made. Dr. Marshall was in communication with Siddhanta on that. Okay? So that's really important. We actually don't have memories of devotees in Canada, on that list. We never had this opportunity before. So now we have this, it's a golden opportunity. So get on that list, and you're here for Friday, Saturday as well? So Saturday, Sunday evening, okay. Good, so thank you very much for that service.
And if you haven't heard any of these stories before, or if you haven't seen some of the memories, come tomorrow morning at 10, when is the class? 10:30? 10:15, tomorrow morning. Be there or be square. You what?
Thank you very much. And,
Go ahead. Maharaj, as long as you were talking about the Ekadasi, before I forget, and Chaturmas was also very, very simple. No dal, no yogurt, no spinach, no whatever the fourth one was.
Yeah.
Or dal. Yeah, that was it. And when they started growing beards in Mayapur, the sannyasis, and he saw it, of course he told them all to shave. And he said, my disciples, they want to have so many rules and regulations. He said, but they can't follow the principles and chant 16 rounds. So that's what he wanted. He didn't want you to follow 1,000 different, regulations. He wanted you to chant Hare Krishna and follow the principles and do something useful, practical. What about it?
that's a big thing. That's
Well, no, yeah, I know. Everything's a big thing. But our big thing was Sankirtan, in every form. That was our big thing. That was it. There was no other big thing. It's because we're not, we're not a preaching mission anymore. We're a congregational society, And the temples bringing home, but if it doesn't come from the temples, it's not going to happen because no one knows what it means to be actually a follower of Srila Prabhupada. If you want to be right in there, you got to do something. I mean, I see it. We all know. Anyone who engages in trying to give Krishna Prabhupada to others, what do you feel? You become happy. And if you're not doing it, yes, Mary. So this is the rules, and this was his rules and regulations, not so many things.
Yep. So Maharaj just wants to say something, and then we have Krishna Dulal has some announcement about Prashadam.
Okay.
I just wanted to punctuate what you just said. Preaching is really exciting.
Yes.
It's the most, you never know what to expect, and it's the most amazing thing. The people you meet and the experiences you have. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's nothing like it. I told you, it works so well that my wife's happy back in Hawaii. Even though she's not here, she's happy because I'm preaching. And she's experiencing happiness, which she didn't expect. So everything works out. Everyone, if you do your service, everything works out for everyone you're connected with. I mean, really, I found that very interesting because I expected things to be a little bit different, But it's not. Well, I just see Krishna takes care of everything, We should probably stop here. Go ahead, Krishna Prabhu.
I was told we have one more comment from Gaura Prabhu.
Yeah, we haven't let him speak much. I know. Sorry, Gaura.
And then Prashadam is ready.
The sticks took over.
I noticed.
And they don't even have their sticks. That's what Siddha said when he went to Prabhupada. He said, you don't carry your danda. And he said, well, Prabhupada, it's very difficult to travel. He looked, he said, Paramahamsa, he's carrying his danda. Then he said, you don't shave your head. I'm going to give it to you, sannyasi. He said, you don't shave your head. He said, Prabhupada, if I shave my head, I get a cold. He said, you live in Hawaii and you get a cold if you don't shave your head? So see, he didn't, that was when he was very strict with his sannyasis. When Paramahamsa came in, sleepiness, that was one of our dead men episodes. We were all dead men. He said, you're sleeping like dead men. So then we traveled to the next place and we're all sleeping again because we were tired and we're sleeping. But Prabhupada, he was above that. So we're sleeping after lunch and we ate a lot and we could sleep very soundly after a while. I never did that in my life. All of a sudden I could bam, in a second I could be out. So then first he called me in and then he gave me the dead men sleeping very comfortably. Where's Paramahamsa? So then I went in and tapped him. Prabhupada wants to say, I already knew it was going to be bad. I actually felt bad. I wasn't happy to send Paramahamsa in. I felt bad for him. So he went in and Prabhupada said, why are you sleeping? And he said the worst possible thing he could have said. I heard it coming out of his mouth and I was like, oh no. I knew Prabhupada a little bit. I knew how to not get yelled at as much as possible. That was my talent. Stay out of the heat. So Paramahamsa said, Prabhupada, I have jet lag. Oh man, that didn't fly over well. I was like, he would always turn it. He said, I'm also flying. I don't have jet lag. That was how he dealt with you. He brought himself down to where you were. He said, I don't have jet lag. That's when he said to me when I was having trouble. And I said, Prabhupada, I'm in my room all day. Imagine, That's what I did. I sat in an 8x10 room all day for a couple of years. And I, in and out, but never even outside. So that's what I said. He said, why? He said, we both go out for the morning walk every morning. He said, we chant. I wasn't chanting. He asked me why I wasn't chanting my rounds. I was so bewildered I didn't know what to say, and that's what I said. I'm sitting in my room all day. Does that sound logical to you? No. And he didn't laugh at me. He didn't say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. He said, what are we going to do? Imagine. Imagine if Madan Gopal said, I'm not getting my rounds done because I have too much time on my hands. What would you say to him? Prabhupada said, what should we do? Very seriously, he said, what should we do? I said, I don't know. I had so much time on my hands I couldn't get my rounds done. That's what I said. Think about that. The absurdity. He said, call Kurandar. Now, Kurandar, we know, could do anything. Kurandar, there was Prabhupada, and then there was the GBC, of which, at the top of the GBC, it was Kurandar. He was like, he was like Peter. Peter the Apostle? Yeah, he was our Peter. He was the essence of being a devotee. Worked hard, and very brave, like Marine grave. He was a Marine. And he always looked like a Marine. Even with a dhoti and kurta, he looked like a Marine with a dhoti and kurta on. At least to me. So Prabhupada wants to see you. Boom, right out the door, we're up, marching in Prabhupada's room. He did, he was military. He offered obeisances. It looked, everything, he was very, and he sits up, yes, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looks at him, he said, so it started at, let me tell you the start, ringing the bell, and I'm sleeping after lunch. And I was really sleeping. So I went into his room, and I'm on the ground, and he's saying, I've been ringing the bell for hours. And I'm exercising my eyelids, so when I sit up, he won't know I was sleeping. You know, see, this is what you call foolish. Every essence of foolishness. So I'm down, he's already yelling at me that I'm sleeping, but I'm trying to look like I'm not sleeping. And I sit up, and he said, why aren't you chanting your rounds? And I wasn't chanting my rounds. So that's how it ensued. So now Karandar's there, and he said, so Srutakirti, he's not getting his rounds finished. And he says it's because he's sitting in his room all day. Now Karandar's not laughing either. I don't think he ever laughed. So it would take a lot to make him laugh. So he's like, I said to Prabhupada when he said, I'm also sitting in my room all day. We go out for the morning walk together. And I'm like, yeah, but you're Haridas Thakur. I said, that was the only time I ever said anything. I said, Prabhupada, you're Haridas Thakur. And it's not working, you know. So then, Karandar, and he says, so what do we do? Same way, serious. There wasn't a tinge of sarcasm in Prabhupada's voice. That's how special Prabhupada was. And he says, I know. He said, can you get a dictaphone machine? He had his Grundig dictaphone machine, that's a little reel-to-reel. Had the microphone, you know, had to play, pause, reverse, and record. And Karandar, yes, Prabhupada. You would never hear a no from Karandar. Yes, Prabhupada. He said, okay, so you get a dictaphone machine. He said, you can put it in the other sitting room. And he said, I'll begin Chaitanya Charitamrita, translation there. He looks at me, he said, and Srutakirti, he said, you know how to type? Yes, Prabhupada. He knew I knew how to do everything. I was expert. He said, you know how to type? Yes, Prabhupada. He said, so every morning after the walk, we'll come back. He said, you can retrieve the tape, and you'll do the transcribing. He said, then you'll be busy. He said, and then you can get your rounds finished. Right? Yes, Prabhupada. Yeah, sounds good. Yes, Prabhupada, I said. He said, okay. So, I mean, it was an hour later, there's another Grundig machine on Prabhupada's desk. This is 1973. You know, you didn't get Amazon, you know, whatever it's called, you know, drone deliveries, nothing. None of those things existed, you know. But he got it like that. So on the desk. So I'm like, and now, Prabhupada was so intelligent because he knew just what to do, because now I'm thinking, I have to do something I have to get my rounds done. So we're on the morning walk, I'm next to Prabhupada. He's chanting rounds, you know, he's showing me. He's chanting, I'm chanting. All is good in the world. Prabhupada loves me. He's trying to save me. I saw the tape, he did something there. So I'm like, I'm eager to get back. I have something to do. Because I couldn't go anywhere. You know, I couldn't say, Prabhupada, I'm going to go for a little walk. No, you don't say that. You know, I told you, one morning I went to Mangal Artik. My godbrothers in LA, they wouldn't leave me alone. Come to Mangal, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. It was the old temple room, you know, 73. So finally they convinced me, because they convinced me that Prabhupada never calls for me that time of the morning, which was true. So of course I go to Mangal Artik, it's wonderful, Rukmini Dwarkadish. I was never in the temple room except when Prabhupada was. And of course, Prajumna's tapped me on the back. Prabhupada wants to see, he's really mad. Oh, Krishna. I run in there, offering a obeisances. Where are you? I've been ringing this bell for hours. I said, Prabhupada, I was in the temple, I was at Mangal Artik. You have no business going to Mangal Artik. You have to be in your room, he said. He didn't say 24/7, but he said 24/7 you have. He said, what if I need something? He called me because he knew I wasn't there. You know, he didn't need any. That's all he did was yell at me. He called me to yell at me to say that I have to be there. He said, you have no business going to Mangal Artik. I was in Maya. I said I was the only person ever in Maya for going to Mangal Artik. So the whole world, you're all in Maya. We don't go, we're in Maya. I was in Maya for going to Mangal Artik. You'll understand. Service, it's personal. It's not a bunch of rituals we're doing, you know, go to Manga, dance before the... It's because that's what we have to do, because we don't understand the reality of Krishna. We don't know Krishna. We don't know anything. So we have all these rituals. You know, like I say, when I brought Prabhupada his lunch, devotees say, how did you offer it? And I'd say, well, I cooked it, rolled the chapatis, put everything on the plate, bring it into his room and offer it to him. And I say, well, when did you say the prayers? I said, what prayers? Well, I offered it. I said, who am I going to offer it to? That person actually said to me, well, you'll have to offer it to Krishna. I said, I don't know Krishna. How am I going to offer anything to Krishna? No, Prabhupada told us, you offer it to the spiritual master. He offers it. So that's what I did, because he was right there. We pray because there has to be something. It's not like you just put the plate, and say, here you go, God, here's your lunch. No, we have to make a show of devotion, But my show was I cooked for him and then I brought it to him. There was nothing else to do. He was on a train in India, and he said, you can get kachori. It was at the train station. He said, this guy is okay. He said, you can get kachoris. He approved of them on the train. So he brings kachoris, cleaned the table, and you didn't have, it's India train, so it's clean already, but he cleaned it again. That was a joke. They're filthy trains. I think I should stop talking now. and he puts it down, the kachori is very nicely there, and then he starts to get down on the ground to offer it. And Prabhupada says, what are you doing? He said, well, Prabhupada, I'm offering the kachoris. He said, I'm right here. See, that's the difference. I told you that he walked into the kitchen in L.A. and the Mataji's preparing breakfast. And beautiful. This was 73. They were pretty strawberries and tasty back then. And what is that? Strawberries. Prabhupada is boga. Oh. he liked to unhinge you, make you think. See, that's what we get. It doesn't take long to get into a rut. We just do things. I was with Prabhupada, like they said, what was it like to touch him? Mm-hmm. I said, I feel him now. I feel his touch now, more than then. Then I was just doing service, and I was happy to be there. But this is better, That's what he wanted. In fact, he wants, we have to know. I had a dream. He wants you to know that this process works by seeing what's happening to our God brothers and God sisters, how they're leaving their bodies, how he's coming. It's not about books. It's about he's transforming us, and he's there at every step. And when we leave our bodies, he's there. He wants to show proof that it works. Otherwise, what are we all doing? Like this thing, he can't make a pure devotee. What are we saying? Prabhupada can't make a pure devotee. He can't make a guru. And what did he do? Nothing? No, he wants us to do as he did. That's what he wants. All right. We've run over a little over time. Thank you all for being here this evening. And we'll continue more. You get your...
This will still need to be continued. We still have another 2-3 days of the festival.
Yeah, we have, it's just Thursday. We have Friday and Saturday.
Sundays.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.